past couple of days, Black Ops 4 has been getting some teasers pointing towards Operation 4. We didn't get them on Monday or Tuesday like we previously thought, but as of Wednesday, yesterday, and today, we've gotten 3 teasers that point specifically towards Operation 4. And I wanted to hold off on this breakdown a little bit to kind of see how they were going to be releasing this stuff. It seems like we now have a little bit of a window of understanding as to how and what will be detailed on what days, so I feel a little more confident breaking this down and giving you a little bit more certainty in the information at hand. So today we're going to be talking about the crazy yet possible real meaning behind these teasers released so far. But if you guys haven't seen the teasers from Twitter just yet, let's check them out. So some pretty interesting stuff there if you ask me, but first things first, I want to say that I think that all of these are connected, but not connected at the same time, if that makes sense. We've talked about the backstory and lore here, and in this marketing promotional material, I think the backstory is tremendously relevant, even though we don't consider it while necessarily playing through it or even trying discerning what we actually see hidden in the background. So to start, I think that some things appear to have other meanings than that of what they may actually mean. For example, the first teaser, this one, really no explanation here to it. It's a 2-second teaser that looks like a character placing a C4 charge. Now, the initial reaction around the community was a bit of shock and possibly outrage depending on who you asked. The initial thought, though, was that C4 would be introduced within Black Ops 4 as perhaps the next specialist ability, lethal, or whatever you want to consider. Maybe they just add in the equipment itself. But truth be told, and I could be wrong, don't quote me on this, I think that C4 has nothing to do with the gameplay changes that we'll be seeing on Tuesday. I don't think that's actually coming in the playable game, but instead, it was a lead up to what's next because as we see, the second teaser is more of a mini trailer and cinematic where we see a group of Rangers, interestingly led by Battle Hardened, to point towards or possibly confirm Blackout's involvement with this teaser. We see this group get taken out by who we can identify as Spectre, and we'll talk about this in just a second, but there's a few key elements that I want to point out in the background. First things first, again, Battle Hardened being that leader here for it. While the Rangers and the Battle Hardened can definitely be used as just sort of the military style outside of the specialist that we see in any conflict or cinematic in the Black Ops universe not pertaining to our main specialist, but to me, it points more so than anything to Blackout initially. And also, this location is actually a real place. It's actually in Blackout. It's Hydro Dam. I saw the discussion first stem on Reddit about the talk of blowing up the dam, and I was like, you know what? That's really interesting, but I don't know about that one just yet. But then I do know that my good friend Prestigious Key actually pointed out the exact wall inside the dam. And that's something that you can go and check out for yourselves. It's not fabricated or anything. It actually is a part of that. So again, more so confirming that Blackout tie there with it. The next thing I want to talk about, though, is the smoke grenade. This is something that we've actually seen already. Again, we talked about this where there was a glitch in the bare bones create a class selections where some of the equipment showcased on PC the smoke grenade, where it ended up giving the details that the smoke grenade, of course, was the smoke we all know, but that Spectre could see through it. So similar to one of Caustic's abilities from Apex Legends, and then that sword is the next thing as well. That is quite literally Spectre's MO, known for that surgically precise blade. And in this teaser, it looks almost like a katana in this iteration, and it could be a prequel to the Ripper. Perhaps Spectre starts with that katana, and then as time progresses, and as the lore continues afterwards as Black Ops 4 is a prequel to Black Ops 3, we either see that tech introduced, or since Black Ops 3's entire multiplayer is a simulation, it might not necessarily need to be real per se. And then finally, the last thing we'll talk about with this teaser is Spectre's mask is actually seen in a frame where we see the reflection of that armed sequence being initiated, again further confirming Spectre. If you look at the two faces, it's that reflective or mirrored helmet on the face. As for today's teaser, the third and final teaser so far, This to me is just a map teaser in my opinion. We end up seeing a laptop that flashes screenshots or cinematics like how we saw casino or lockup teasers as of the promotion of Last Operation with Grand Heist. And this is interesting and all, but the background in the backing images is where I start to see this kind of come full circle from that original mention that it's all connected, but not at the same time. The biggest part that I'm sure maybe even you can pick out is the coffee mug. With the first teaser that we got for Grand Heist, we had a blueprint that up in the northwest corner, we ended up seeing there was a coffee mug size sort of moisture ring there. Interestingly enough, underneath that coffee mug is multiple blueprints. Now to me, having gone in and examined these, they don't necessarily look like the exact one that we got in Grand Heist. That necessarily points to a direct tie, but with multiple there could be one underneath it where we see a corner perhaps the same as that. It also looks like, given the couple etchings on the grain to showcase which way the wood is going, to be the same sort of desk. Now if you got any tinfoil handy, now's the time to rip off a sheet and then put it on your head, make a tinfoil cap, because we're gonna go into some deep speculation here, some stuff that is really interesting in theory, but how plausible it is, your guess is as good as mine. I think that maybe, just maybe, it could be on the right line of thinking here, but who knows? But it's interesting, and I want to bring it up no less because maybe it is actually something that happens. To me, though, in terms of just this teaser, this kind of is that validation that it comes full circle. This, to me, is in relation to Project Blackout, something that I've been meaning to detail in full here within Black Ops 4's backstory, but have yet to get around to it. Without overloading you with a massive amount of information that won't make a whole lot of sense without some clarity, explaining and building it all up, Savannah Meyer from the Specialist HQ story, as well as the previously mentioned Raul Menendez and a few others in company, are running a secret organization working on something called Project Blackout, where there's global test sites and all that are working specifically on constructed testing facilities for what is easiest explained as Controllable Element 115 and what we see in Blackout as the Collapse. Without breaking into it a ton, Project Blackout is the constructed operation that is calculated, hence the blueprints that we saw for Grand Heist and we see now returning again. And with the backstory of MP and that Specialist storyline connecting to the otherwise unheard of Project Blackout, this teased today for an MP map and what looks like the same sort of blueprint designs that we saw previously for Blackout. To me, it confirms that interconnectivity of it all. But here's where we start to get really interesting, some really crazy food for thought. It looks like somebody contracted Spectre to blow up the dam. What happens next is a mystery, right? Or is it? Because there also are other variables in play that are not public that may point to actually an outcome of this entire situation. There's in-game code that points towards a pirate theme. Our friend Josh Woocool did some digging last night while looking for a specific model of the replacer and found a few files hidden away that, while unfortunately I can't show on screen due to intellectual property law, were directly that of a pirate theme. I'll leave the link down there in the description below to the tweets if you guys want to check them out. And of course, go show Josh some love. We've mentioned him here on the channel before. He brings up some really cool stuff that is directly from the game files and points towards future content, so definitely check him out. But what if this explosion that blows up Hydro Dam ends up potentially flooding the entire Blackout map, or at least a good chunk of it? It would then be rather interesting, as there's been calls to change the Blackout map instead of adding in new POIs, and while with a basic understanding of the development of Blackout under my belt, I can't say that I know the intricacies of it. That sort of stuff is insanely hard to do, to create a brand new map of that scale and that size, and to pull it off and be playable. So with it being an insane task, maybe it's just insane enough that with the missteps that we've seen along the way since launch, that this is the kind of insane that we need. Change the entire Blackout map, bring something brand new instead of just a POI, and adjust accordingly. Now, the whole theme of the pirate theme is something that I'm sure a lot of people are going to be really hit or miss on, but it is something that would make sense in that regard whenever I try and at least piece it together, logically explain it, that if there's a flood, of course some things will be more whimsical than others, like a pirate-themed Prophet outfit, but it's curious to me that, of course, with all these things considered from an official teaser's perspective, that we have things in the very early builds of a pirate-themed uniform in the game files. And they'd be something that would be earlier on builds, like how we see some maps are left with remnants of the code from a very early build of the game, or earlier build rather. We saw this happen with many things. There was a DLC map that was a very early build that was found in the game files like a week or so after Black Ops 4 launched. We ended up seeing that some of the DLC maps from World War II, that DLC one drop, ended up having remnants of those early builds of the game files in the base build of the game. So that kind of stuff does happen. You're going to have those little slip-ups and things that slip through the cracks. So what if we do see a nautical theme? I don't think that necessarily everything will happen if that's the case. Like such, I think it'd be probably the whimsical outfit, like how we see the bunny firebreak outfit. But what do you think of that theory? Do you think that it's possible that Hydro Dam floods a little bit of the map? Do we see some alterations here with that as a result? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments, but I think that's where we're gonna wrap it up. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. I want to give you guys my perspective on the 3 teasers so far. Of course, if you guys want to keep up to date, follow me over on Twitter. We'll break down everything around real time whenever that happens, around 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time each day that a new teaser comes out. And it seems like we'll be getting today a map teaser, tomorrow maybe a map teaser, Sunday a map teaser, and then maybe Monday that trailer and live stream to detail everything going live on Tuesday. But that said, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4, MP, Blackout, Zombies. We got you covered, the best of updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. So if any of that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, there's the best place to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. So if you guys want to check out the conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. Well, let's end now. Thank you guys all so much for watching. My name's Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.